Welcome everyone. Today we discuss inverse functions and logarithms in structural and civil engineering. In steel structures and bridge design, structural rework is rarely caused by difficult differentiation. Instead, it is caused far more often by neglecting four underlying constraints during an inverse calculation: domain, range, quadrant, and one-to-one correspondence. The two real-world incidents we examine illustrate the most common failure modes: inverse trigonometric functions and logarithmic models. Let us look at case 1, involving a missed quadrant in an inverse trigonometric calculation. On a long-span steel truss construction site, an engineer needed to calculate the installation angle of a diagonal brace using monitored horizontal and vertical force components. Both measured force components were negative, but the engineer directly applied the inverse tangent formula into a calculator. Because both force components were negative, their ratio became positive, and the calculator returned a principal angle in the first quadrant, around 53 degrees. This angle was entered directly into the hydraulic jacking system without adjusting for the physical quadrant. The consequence was immediate and catastrophic. The direction of the jacking force was completely reversed relative to the intended orientation. The temporary bracing frame collapsed, the diagonal joint tore, and site operations were completely suspended, resulting in massive financial losses. The root cause was not an arithmetic mistake, but a failure to recognize the mathematical constraints of the function. The range of the inverse tangent function is strictly confined to the first and fourth quadrants when both horizontal and vertical force components are negative. The actual force vector lies in the third quadrant. Finding the true installation angle requires adding 180 degrees to the principal value, giving an angle of over 233 degrees. A calculator only provides the mathematical principal value. It cannot infer the actual geometric orientation of the structure. Now let us consider case 2, which demonstrates an unverified range in a logarithmic model. An early structural model described foundation settlement over time, where the exponential term naturally restricts the settlement values within a specific theoretical range between 9 and 10 centimeters. However, a technician substituted a target design warning threshold of 8 centimeters directly into the model to solve for a preloading duration. The key structural lesson here is clear. Before inverting a logarithmic model, we must always verify that our target response lies within the mathematical range of the model. If a target value falls outside that range, it signals a direct contradiction between the monitored data and the mechanical model. Any resulting numerical value carries no engineering validity, no matter how cleanly it computes. Engineering intuition often fails here because we assume that working backward is simply a matter of reversing the arithmetic. In reality, almost every inverse function, whether algebraic, logarithmic, or trigonometric, carries a strict precondition for validity. When that precondition is not satisfied, the result may be mathematically computable, but it remains engineering waste. Establishing this conceptual line of defense is our primary objective today. Let us analyze the division of labor among these three mathematical tools. A forward function answers the basic question: given a known loading condition, what is the resulting structural response? The ordinary inverse function answers the reverse question: given a desired target response, what loading condition was required to produce it? This applies directly to linear and monotonic models, provided the function is strictly one-to-one throughout the region of interest. The logarithmic function serves as the specialized inverse tool for exponential models. It applies whenever the rate of physical change is proportional to the current state, such as in consolidation settlement, press stress, relaxation, or belt friction. Its primary task is to isolate a time parameter or geometric distance that sits up in the exponent. Meanwhile, the inverse trigonometric function is reserved for angle recovery in structural mechanics. It allows us to calculate an inclination angle from a ratio of lengths or force components in slopes, trusses, and retaining walls, subject to specific range constraints in every case. Furthermore, using inverse functions fixes our solving procedure into a reusable formula, offering a major efficiency gain over solving individual equations case by case. This foundational concept carries forward directly into engineering statics and soil mechanics. In Chapter 8 of Hibbeler statics, belt tension equations are inverted logarithmically to determine the wrap angle, while the self-locking angle on an inclined plane is recovered using the inverse tangent of the friction coefficient. Similarly, inverse trigonometric functions recover member inclination, angles, and spatial force systems, while logarithmic inversion determines service duration in soil consolidation and creep analysis. Before moving further, we must establish 3 intuitive red lines that demand extreme caution. First, the superscript -1 denotes an inverse mapping, not a numerical reciprocal. Writing a reciprocal instead of an inverse function represents a fundamental mathematical error. Second, a non-monotone conic curve does not possess a global unique inverse function. If a function rises and then falls, it must be partitioned into monotonic subintervals, and each branch must be inverted separately. Third, logarithmic functions impose a strict positive domain requirement, while each inverse trigonometric function carries its own fixed range. An inverse trigonometric calculation returns only the mathematical principal value, which may differ from the real-world physical angle. Always check and correct the result against the physical scenario. Now let us examine functions through graphical representation, starting with the horizontal line test for invertibility. Consider the bending moment along a simply supported beam, which forms a parabolic curve that rises and then falls. Any horizontal line intersects this parabola at 2 points, meaning a single moment value corresponds to 2 different cross-sections. Therefore, no global inverse exists unless we restrict our attention to the monotonically increasing first half of the beam. In contrast, consider press-stress decay over time. This model decreases monotonically across its entire domain, so any horizontal line intersects the curve exactly once. Because the one-to-one condition is satisfied, a global inverse function can be constructed directly. Notice the symmetry between a function and its inverse reflection across the line of symmetry interchanges, steep and flat regions. Where the original function is steep, the inverse becomes flat and forgiving to errors. However, where the original function flattens out, the inverse steepens sharply, causing small measurement variations to produce large changes in the back-calculated parameters. This tells us precisely where high monitoring precision is required on site. Looking at the natural logarithmic curve, its domain requires strictly positive values. Near 0, the curve drops steeply along a vertical asymptote. As the variable grows, the rate of increase flattens continuously. Physically, this corresponds to foundation settlement, where settlement occurs rapidly in the early stages and then slows significantly over time, making long-term incremental changes harder to measure. Finally, consider the principal domain and range constraints for the 3 inverse trigonometric functions. The inverse sine function operates on values between -1 and +1, returning angles between -90 degrees and +90 degrees, useful for embankment slopes. The inverse cosine function operates on the same domain but returns angles between 0 and 180 degrees, ideal for retaining walls and roof members. The inverse tangent function accepts any real number and compresses the output between -90 degrees and +90 degrees, which is essential for truss slopes and force component ratios. Now let us look at the numerical representation through a table lookup example. Suppose a specification table lists duct diameters alongside their corresponding resistance coefficients. As duct diameter increases, the resistance coefficient decreases monotonically. Because the 1-to owning condition is satisfied, we can perform linear interpolation to invert the data. If a design specification requires a specific target resistance coefficient, we identify the 2 bounding values in the table. Applying linear interpolation allows us to back-calculate the exact required duct diameter, yielding a result of 0.4375 meters. This piecewise linear inverse approach is widely used in mechanical and plumbing design to determine dimensions from required performance targets. Next, let us examine the algebraic representation. The fundamental algebraic identity establishes that finding an inverse function is equivalent to solving for the independent variable. To verify our results, applying a function to its inverse always returns the original input variable. For exponential relationships, the natural logarithm serves as the standard inverse tool in civil engineering. 4 key algebraic properties govern logarithmic calculations. Logarithms convert multiplication into addition, division into subtraction, and exponents into simple multipliers. Crucially, taking the natural logarithm of an exponential term frees the exponent so it can be solved directly. while taking the exponential of a logarithm recovers the original physical quantity. Consider a settlement example modeled with a base 2 exponential function. If the target settlement is 20 millimeters, we isolate the exponential term on one side of the equation, which simplifies to 0.5. Taking the logarithm isolates the time parameter, allowing us to solve for a required duration of 10 days. Converting any base to natural logarithms using the change of base formula ensures full compatibility with differential equations. Remember that the physical domain acts as your fundamental safety constraint. Logarithmic arguments must remain strictly positive, and inverse trigonometric functions must operate within their permissible boundaries. Physical parameters like tension, length, or time cannot be negative. If an invalid value is entered, a computer algorithm will simply return an error or produce nonsense without warning. Structural failures often occur when an algorithm outputs a number that makes no physical sense. To apply these concepts consistently, we follow a standardized 4-procedure framework. Procedure 1 checks whether an inverse function exists by confirming monotonicity across the interval. If a function rises and falls, we must partition it into independent monotonic subintervals before constructing a piecewise inverse for the active branch. Procedure 2 addresses ordinary inverse functions. We express the output variable in terms of the input, solve algebraically for the original input, swap the symbols, and explicitly define the domain based on the range of the original function. Consider a simply supported beam with a parabolic moment distribution. If we restrict our domain to the left half span where the moment increases monotonically, we can solve the quadratic relationship for distance. Choosing the physically valid route gives a clear formula mapping bending moment directly to cross-section position across its valid range. Procedure 3 governs logarithmic inversion for exponential models, with mandatory range verification first. We isolate the exponential term, confirm that our target response lies within the achievable range of the model. Take the natural logarithm of both sides and solve for the unknown parameter, while discarding non-physical results. Procedure 4 guides inverse trigonometric calculations. First, classify the geometric ratio. Height differences call for inverse sine, horizontal projections call for inverse cosine, and slopes or force components call for inverse tangent. Next, determine the true physical quadrant from the signs of the components. Calculate the principal value, adjust by adding 180 degrees if operating in the second or third quadrant, and construct a right triangle to extract exact sine and cosine values directly. Let us walk through example 1 involving belt friction on a capstan or pulley. The tension ratio is expressed as an exponential function of the friction coefficient and wrap angle. Given an initial tension of 10 kilonewtons, a final tension of 41.11 kilonewtons, and a friction coefficient of 0.3, we solve for the wrap angle. We divide the final tension by the initial tension to obtain the tension ratio of over 4.1. Taking the natural logarithm releases the wrap angle from the exponent. Dividing this logarithm by the friction coefficient yields a wrap angle of 4.712 radians, which corresponds exactly to 270 degrees or 3/4 of a full turn around the pulley. Now consider example 2, involving a foundation consolidation settlement model. Settlement in centimeters is modeled over time in days, with a theoretical maximum range capped below 10 centimeters. We wish to determine the time required to reach a target settlement of 8 centimeters. First, we verify that 8 centimeters lies within the model's achievable range. Next, we rearrange the terms to isolate the exponential component, which evaluates to 0.2. Taking the natural logarithm and dividing by the rate parameter reveals that approximately 8.05 days of preloading are required. Because the target value passed the range check, this construction schedule is completely valid. In example 3, we analyze a cable under tension with measured force components of 30 kilonewtons horizontally and 40 kilonewtons vertically. Because both force components are positive, the vector lies in the first quadrant, allowing direct use of the principal angle value. Taking the ratio of vertical to horizontal force components gives 4/3. Evaluating the inverse tangent yields an angle of approximately 53.13 degrees. To avoid rounding errors from repeated trigonometric calculations, we construct a 3-4. 5 right triangle directly identifying the cosine as 0.6. Dividing the horizontal force by this cosine gives a total resultant cable force of 50 kilonewtons. Example 4 considers slope stability on an excavation face with a vertical height difference of 3 meters and a total slope length of 10 meters. The ratio of height to slope length gives a sine value of 0.3. Because slope angles operate in the first quadrant, taking the inverse sine gives an inclination angle of approximately 17.46 degrees. Using the Pythagorean theorem on our reference triangle gives a horizontal projected length of approximately 9.539 meters and a cosine value of 0.9539, providing essential parameters for slope sliding stability analysis. In example 5, an inclined retaining wall anchor has a total length of 5 meters and a horizontal projection of 4 meters. Taking the ratio of horizontal projection to total length gives a cosine value of 0.8. Taking the inverse cosine yields an anchor inclination angle of approximately 36.87 degrees. Constructing the reference triangle reveals a vertical projected height of 3 meters, a sine value of 0.6, and an immediate force decomposition. 80% of the anchor tension acts horizontally and 60% acts vertically. To synthesize our discussion, let us summarize 4 critical pitfalls every structural engineer must avoid. First, never confuse inverse mapping notation with a numerical reciprocal. Replacing an inverse function with a reciprocal when calculating stiffness or load relationships results in errors by orders of magnitude, threatening structural safety. Second, never force a global inverse on a non-monotonic function. When analyzing parabolic bending moments or sinusoidal loading, you must restrict the domain to a single monotonic subinterval. Failing to do so creates ambiguous solutions and misjudges critical cross-sections. Third, never attempt logarithmic inversion without first checking that your target value falls within the model's physical range. Solving outside the valid range produces meaningless numerical output that can completely disrupt preloading schedules or component replacement cycles. Fourth, never rely blindly on a calculator's principal value for inverse trigonometric functions without verifying the physical quadrant. Forgetting to apply quadrant correction when force components are negative reverses the calculated force direction by 180 degrees, turning intended compression members into tension, which can trigger catastrophic collapse. In summary, the ordinary inverse function handles monotonic polynomial models, the logarithmic function deconstructs exponential time-dependent behaviors, and the inverse trigonometric function recovers geometric angles. Always remember, one-to-one correspondence is your ticket to finding a solution. Range verification protects against impossible targets, and quadrant correction turns mathematical principal values into physical truths. You now have 4 essential tools in your engineering toolkit: qualification testing for one-to-one correspondence, the 4-step ordinary inverse procedure, pre-inversion range checks for logarithmic models, and quadrant correction for trigonometric relationships. Applying these principles systematically will ensure accuracy and safety across all your structural calculations. Thank you for watching.